Hey everyone, and welcome. So, you've definitely heard the word blockchain. It's everywhere, right? And it's usually tied to things like Bitcoin. But what if I told you the real story here isn't about digital money at all, but about a completely new way to build trust in our digital world? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify this thing once and for all.
This one question, it really gets to the heart of everything. The entire promise of blockchain is right here. It's all about a massive shift from relying on institutions or people to relying on a system built on transparent, unchangeable, verifiable proof. Some people even call it a trust machine.
All right, here's what we've got on tap for the next few minutes. We're going to start with what blockchain actually is. Then we'll peek under the hood to see how it works. We'll look at a really powerful real-world example, touch on the investment angle, and then wrap it all up with the key things you need to remember and how you can get started if you're curious.
Okay, first things first, we have to separate the technology from its most famous celebrity. Think of it this way. Bitcoin is to blockchain what email is to the internet. One is just the first killer app, but the other, that's the whole platform. And that underlying platform is what's truly a game changer. So what is this thing really? Well, at its core, a blockchain is just a very special kind of digital record book. The best way to picture it is like a Google Sheet that's been copied thousands of times and sent to every computer in a network. Whenever a new transaction happens, a new row gets added, and every single copy of that sheet updates instantly. And here's the kicker. Once a row is added, it can never, ever be secretly changed or deleted. It's locked in. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, especially when you compare it to what we use every day. Think about your bank's database. It's centralized, they control it, it's editable, they can make changes, and it's opaque. You can't see everything. Blockchain just flips that whole model on its head. It's decentralized, so nobody owns it. It's immutable, so the history's permanent, and it's transparent, so everyone involved sees the exact same version of the truth. Okay, so how does this thing actually build trust from scratch? I mean, how do all these moving parts come together to create a secure system that doesn't need a boss or a central company in charge? You see, none of these features are that revolutionary on their own. But when you put them all together, that's where the magic happens. Because it's decentralized, one person can't just shut it down. Because it's immutable and locked with cryptography, you can't cheat the system. And because of consensus, the entire network has to agree that a transaction is legit before it's even added. It's this combination that lets us cut out the middleman. So let's walk through a transaction's journey real quick. Step 1. Somebody kicks off a transaction. Step 2. All the computers on the network, called nodes, check it out to make sure it's valid. If they all give it the green light, it gets bundled up with a bunch of other transactions into a new block. And this is the really cool part. That new block gets locked onto the previous one with a super strong cryptographic link. It's like forging a new link in a chain that cannot be broken. And that's it. It's done. A permanent part of the history. Okay, theory is one thing. But what does this look like out in the wild? Well, let's take a look at how this technology solved a huge, messy, and very real problem for a company we all know, Walmart. So picture this, it's 2018 and there's a big E. coli outbreak linked to romaine lettuce. The huge problem was that nobody could figure out exactly where the bad lettuce came from, and they couldn't do it fast. Imagine the chaos. You had records on paper and random spreadsheets, a total mess spread across farms, trucks, and warehouses. There was just no single source of truth. With the old method, tracing just one package of produce all the way back to the original farm took, on average, 7 days, a whole week. And during that time, more people could get sick, and stores had to throw out tons of perfectly good food just to be safe. So Walmart partners with IBM, they build a blockchain system. And that new trap back time, are you ready for this? 2.2 seconds. That's it. Just let that sink in for a moment. From 7 days down to the time it takes to snap your fingers. This is way bigger than just saving money on spoiled produce. We're talking about public health. This kind of speed means you can do surgical recalls, pulling only the bad stuff off the shelves. It saves money, for sure, but more importantly, it protects people. It's a perfect example of what a shared, trusted record can do. And that's why, years ago, The Economist called this the trust machine. It's a perfect name for it, right? It creates trust, not because you trust a person or a company, but because you can trust the shared, verifiable data itself. The Walmart story shows you exactly why.
All right, I know what a lot of you are thinking. This is all cool, but what about the money? The investing side. It's impossible to talk about blockchain without it, so let's get into it.
first thing you've got to realize is this is so much bigger than just buying and selling coins. We're talking about a whole new financial ecosystem being built from the ground up. You have things like DeFi, which is short for decentralized finance, trying to rebuild banking without the banks. You have the tokenization of real-world assets, which is a fancy way of saying you can turn a piece of a building or a work of art into a digital token. It's a huge space. So if you want to get some exposure, you basically have three main routes you can take. The first is direct, just buying assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum. The second is indirect. You can buy into an ETF that holds a whole bunch of different blockchain-related things. Or third, you can buy stock in regular companies, public companies, that are heavily invested in building out this technology.
Okay, now for the really important part. And I can't stress this enough. This is a high-risk, high-reward playground. But hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from BlackRock, one of the biggest investment managers on the planet. The prices are incredibly volatile, which means you have to be ready for the very real risk of loss. Woo! Okay, we've gone through a ton of information, so let's just pause and boil it all down. If you remember nothing else from our chat today, remember these four things. So, number one, at the end of the day, blockchain is just a new kind of database, one that's built for trust. 2, its potential goes way, way beyond crypto. Think supply chains, identity, even voting. 3, if you're thinking about investing, you have to know it is high risk and super volatile. It is not for the faint of heart. And finally, and this is key, remember, it's still so early. We're in the dial-up days of this technology, which means staying informed is crucial, even if you're just a skeptic watching from the sidelines. So, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm intrigued, now what? I've got you covered. Here are some simple next steps, whether you just want to learn more or you're thinking about dipping a toe in the water.
If you want to keep digging deeper, here are some fantastic resources. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see them here. There are some great books for a technical dive, websites for daily news, and podcasts with amazing interviews. There are tons of ways to keep learning.
And look, if, and that's a big if, you're thinking about investing, please be smart about it. The golden rule here is to start small. Never invest more than you're willing to lose. A good rule of thumb is maybe 1 to 5% of your portfolio. Consider strategies like dollar cost averaging to handle the crazy price swings, and check out ETFs if you want broad exposure without trying to pick a winner. So I'll leave you with one final question to chew on. We've talked about food and finance, but this idea, it's so much bigger. Think about the systems in your own life: voting, medical records, property titles. Where does a lack of trust make things slow, expensive, or unfair? And just maybe, could this be the technology that finally changes that? Thanks so much for joining me.